Hi everyone, my name is Lena Raine, and I am a composer for video games and other media. And I am here to talk you through a little bit of the behind the scenes deep dive into my composition process, and specifically my mock-up process for doing a bit of interactive music for Harmony: The Fall of Reverie. This is Fmod. It is a middleware software that essentially enables dynamic music, audio in games, and sort of serves as the gateway between the source files and the game engine, and allows you to organize different stems and cues and all that stuff into what eventually is a dynamic, progressive piece of music in the game itself. So now what I'm going to do is walk you through one of the pieces from Harmony and kind of show you what goes into making a progressive piece of dynamic music for a visual novel style game. So we have a whole bunch of different tracks here. I didn't actually name them anything different because this was just a mock-up, not meant to be seen by the public, but here you are anyways. And then we have a bunch of progressive stuff here. So you can see here's one clip. We got percussion that starts it off. And if we skip ahead a little bit, we have the kick drum coming in here with the snare. This is just kind of your basic percussive layer that kind of starts off some of the scenes in the game. And then we have another one, enter piano. I like to label things to at least help me organize. Here we got the piano part coming in. That's actually a pretty short loop. I'm going to play this all in context at the end here, but I want to go through all the different stems to kind of show you what there is to work with. We've got the melody coming in here. And so while this one is kind of short, it's just this same progression looping over and over again. We have this longer one with the melody coming in, and this plays all the way through. And then over here, we have what I call the different vamps. And if you're not familiar with like jazz terminology, vamping is just kind of when you're playing through the chord changes over and over again, and you might improvise on top of it or play the melody again or whatever you want to do. Kind of on top of that. And that's kind of how I like to think of compositions, especially for dynamic music, where you've got melodic sections, which it's a little bit more difficult to interrupt them because, you don't really want to change the melody necessarily, but you can interrupt it if you need to, go on to a different piece of, melodic content or whatever. But if you just kind of drop out the melody halfway through, you're kind of like, well, what just happened? So I like to have, a melodic section that plays all the way through, and then it goes into the vamp. And so the vamp here for this is playing through the changes again, but then we got a little bit of high synth that comes in, got new bass that comes in. Skip ahead a little bit. And so it kind of gets that mood going. It really gets the feeling of just drifting through space, through time, whatever it is that you might be doing with this this background music. And then we have a bunch of different variations. This one drops out the percussion. Kind of lets just the piano and the synths do their thing. Got another one that drops it just down to the ambient synth and the bass. And we got a fun little alternate one where this little synth line comes in. And this is a bit of the composition coming in, where this is a synth line that represents Monoconcern, which is sort of the big monolithic megacorporation, and so it comes in when we're talking about them and kind of feeling a little anxious about that, and then kind of leaves off with just this, just the ambient synth. And funny enough, in the actual game progression, while I initially composed this so that it would end with the ambient synth, in the game, the first time this track plays, it starts with just the ambient synth. So it actually kind of does a bit of a reverse progression, which is fun. So you can do anything you want with the dynamic implementation. It's all fair game. So let's just play through a little bit. And I have, if you can see my cursor up here, I've got this progression parameter, and this goes all the way from 0 to 7. And this is essentially taking you through the different steps of the dynamic progression. So when we started off, it's at 0. I just got this percussion bit playing here. And go immediately into 1. And you see this transition over here. Piano starts. And now if we are just kind of chilling here in one zone, it's gonna loop back to the start of this this progression here. I'm just overlapping the same stem on top of itself so that I can create this sort of seamless loop. If I just let it play without transitioning, it would come to sort of this elegant end here. But it's just gonna keep looping forever until, let's say, okay, let's go to 2. And then once it gets to this point, it's going to check, hey, is this 2 or higher? Why, yes it is. So let's move on to the melody. I feel like I'm doing a Sesame Street presentation now, but this is going to play it for a while, so I'm going to skip ahead just a little bit. And no matter where you are, it's going to go ahead to vamp. I kind of skipped a number here. 3 won't actually affect this at all. But now you can see, in FMOD, these are all stacked. So what's actually happening, instead of progressing to the next section, it's going to be crossfading between all of these clips. So I have a little bit of a seek speed on here. So for this parameter, it takes 0.15 seconds to go each tick. So basically what that is it makes it a slower progress. So if I set it immediately to 4, it's going to take a little bit to crossfade instead of just immediately. There we go. Got the percussion going out there. And then over to 5. And the fun sort of behind the scenes reason I'm doing all of this too is I'm breaking it down into just the ambient synth and the bass line, because when I transition to the next layer here with the that synth that comes in, that's actually in conflict with the chord progression from the rest of the track. So if I played just all of those together, it would clash super, super bad. So I wanted to get the piano out of there. So when I go over here into 6, it just combines well, and so you've got the same bass line as the previous track, but it's slightly different chord progression that the synth is doing. Then let's slide all the way over to 7, the final layer. All just drops out except for the ambient synth. And if you wanted to, you could, since this is all playing together, you could actually just go all the way back to 5 here. Actually sound just fine. Let's go all the way back to 4, actually. So you can kind of go both ways when all of them are stacked together. And that's just a little tease at how dynamic music is put together and how it all functions. And hopefully this was an interesting look into the behind-the-scenes process of how I compose dynamic music. Yeah, enjoy the rest of the Save and Sound festival presentations, all of that, and catch you on the next one, whenever that is.